So Tony Brooks did an analysis of the golf swing of Josh. Tony is with Lion Golf Academy, and on Sunday nights he does something called Red Light Live Golf Swing Analysis Show. And you can send in your face on and down the line regular speed video of your golf swing to Tony, and maybe he'll take a look at your
Steven's
swing.
son-in-law, I believe. And Stephen, thank you for sending me these. I appreciate it. It makes this a lot easier for us to go through. Now, we've taken a look at Stephen. We've taken a look at Stephen's daughter. Now we're going to take a look at Stephen's son-in-law. We take a look at the motion overall. So let's just look at the swing going back and through. What we'll notice is there is maybe some setup issues at play here. And some compensation for that setup issue. I do like the way he tries to keep the handle of the club more towards the center of his chest. However, it is set up more kind of like an iron, which now will create some weight distribution issues. And with that weight distribution issue, there's just not enough to swing on the way up. I know he sent me a down the line, so let's take a look at the down the line. Great video work, Steven, so I appreciate that. Anybody watching this that wants to send me videos, just make sure they're down the line just like this, right by the foot line. So there's still a little bit of standing up as well. Excuse me, but let's just take a look at the face on, because this is where I think will make the most sense. So we see the shoulder tilting, and we see based on that centeredness, the hands and the golf ball should be right about here. So we do see a little pulling back, and I know that I preach this, but there comes a time where it could be too much. Now, the problem with this is, remember, with the driver, we're trying to swing up, so we don't want to swing down. Now, with this setup here, you can see that the hands are in a position to swing down. So you've brought everything to neutral, which is great. This is a good iron setup where the hands are neutral with the center of the chest. We're swinging down because if you draw a circle around this, you can see that the club will be working. It's, assuming that you maintain everything the same. Here's the center of your circle. So everything will be swinging down before it strikes the golf ball. And if you get a little bit of bump left, and if your tilting gets a little bit more, now you can really get down on it. The problem is this is not an iron. This is a driver. So a lot of pop-ups might occur here. Some weight distribution issues because it's very hard to get behind the golf ball. So I do see some issues with that in the first part of the swing. So let's draw a line from the golf ball straight up to the sky. And let's put a note on this. So it's just where that center of the left pec. Is that your pec? I think that's your pec. So let's take a look on the way back. We see the weight distribution trying to get behind the golf ball. So we do see the weight shifting right with the upper body. Not a lot of hip sway, which is nice. So we can see the hip sway line. If you put a hip sway line at home, you can see, do you sway your hips or do you get over? So pretty good. It just basically turns around the hip, but the upper body does lean back, which is good. So now we have seen the head has got some spacing to where that golf ball is. Now, if this can stay where it is, and we just basically turn and tilt from this motion while our upper body stays behind the golf ball, you can start to make the swing work. However, because there's been a lot of upper body motion to the right foot, he has to feel like he's got to push it over to the left side, but he doesn't necessarily push with the lower body. We see that the whole body goes back left. Now, the problem with this is he's taking that ball position, which was in the center of his left pec, and he's moved it now, and it's basically in the center of his chest. So this is, again, a good iron setup. Now, the problem with this is his hands are still swinging down at this point, so he's hitting down on the golf ball, and in order to compensate that, he's going to have to throw his hand slightly, try and get some loft on that club, and try and get the angle of the club to kick up as he strikes it. So a lot of weight distribution the wrong way. So I think if you want to get this corrected, Stephen, is have your son-in-law change his setup slightly. I do like the fact that he's doing this to the center of his chest. So do that with the irons, 6, 7, 8 iron. Just do that with those. That'll make a big difference for you. But let's move that ball position slightly more ahead. So we're going to take that new ball position. Let's put it right about here. And now if we adjust our tilting, so make sure not to turn to get to that ball position, because I see when people start to play it off their left foot for a righty to get to that club head to the golf ball, they start to turn their shoulders to get it. And now all of a sudden you have an open shoulder and your path is going to be thrown off, and then you have to compensate that path. So instead of turning to that shoulder, just go ahead and connect your hands to the center of your chest and tilt to that shoulder. So that's going to bring your right shoulder more down, but it's not going to move your weighting to the left foot. You're not going to be opening up to that target. So a little bit of tilting. So if we can get the tilting, so if your club shaft can be here, your tilting is going to be more like that. So the hands will still be in a similar position. You know, the hands will be moving over slightly. So we'll draw, the arrow is going to be moving over slightly here with the hands. The shoulders are going to be tilting down, but the center of your chest will be moving back. And then this golf club will meet that golf ball here. So now, if you take a look at the pattern that you're trying to create, if we draw that same circle, we can see the center of this circle on its axis is there. So now as you get to the golf ball, where's that club going to move? That club's going to be moving up, which is what we want. So just remember, you at home, when you're setting up for a driver setup is everything. I mean, the setup is everything in the golf swing, no matter what you do. Man, no matter what you do, you could be chipping, full swing, 3/4 punch shots, whatever it is, your setup will either get you to have a good motion or a compensatory motion. So in that setup, alignment, like where are you aiming? That's the biggest thing I see that's missed. And secondly is your ball position. Ball position and alignment are the two biggest things that are overlooked because we're so focused on grip, we're so focused on posture, we forget the ball position. Ball position dictates everything. You know, here's a good example. A pretty good setup, just a bad ball position. Now, if he tilts that ball position towards his left foot and then adjusts his tilting correctly and maintains that connection with his hands, now he's going to be good to go. He doesn't have to all of a sudden feel like to get the weight to the right side, because if he just turns and tilts from here, so he has that great right hip placements, right? So we know he has that right hip kind of situated there, but look at where he is now. So where do you see that's different or the same we're actually looking at? So if we draw a blue line, look at where he is now. He is matching where we would like him to be on the setup. And all that is changing the ball position and then your setup around that ball position. And then from here, we focus on staying back with the upper body. So the upper body stays back while the lower body then drives towards that target, which will then increase your tilt even more. And that's the key, because the more you can increase your tilt back, the higher your launch angle will become, because your hand path will change to be higher as you strike the golf ball. So there is a point that you don't want to play that golf ball too far to the left. Okay, so let's do this again. So let's say we all of a sudden say, hey, you know, I'm going to cheat the system. I'm going to play this golf ball way out in front. So I'm going to put the golf ball way out there and tee it up really high. Then I can really accentuate that tilting. Now you got some issues, because not only is it almost impossible to hold this and get in that top position and fall back even further. So look how much you'd have to fall back. But now you're messing with your path, because anytime that golf ball is starting to be outside of your left foot, your path is going to be leading left all the time, because it's not only we're working on this circle, but we're also working on down the line. So if your ball position is too far out to the left side, by the time your club gets past it, it's always going left of your target. Now you have a path that's left. Any sort of club face deviation to that path, man, that ball's all over the place. So you have to be very careful. Same thing with putting the ball too far in the back of your stance. I see so many people put that ball back there trying to cheat the system, gain some distance. But now your path is always going to be in the out, because that ball position is too far back. And that's going to give you an issue with basically where your club face is related to that ball position. So don't take this lightly. What I'm trying to say is ball position, and then make sure you're aiming correctly. But let's take a look at the down the line, because we can see a result of this. You know, we see here's the lower plane line. We can take a look at the setup. Let's draw a quick little setup deal right there. And we can see, is this a relatively stable setup? Okay, so there's the arch of the heels, and this is where the centeredness is. So we can see, look at how much the body weight is behind the center. So this already, there's an issue, because now he's going to have to, not only does he have a iron setup with a driver, but he's weighting so far on his heels that he's going to have to do something to compensate that weight. Typically, when you have weighting on your heels, you have a hand and arm manipulation to accommodate for that. But we know what he does in the face on. Let's just take a look at what happens on the way back. So we start to see some immediate shoulder tilt loss to help that turn, to keep that club on that lower plane line. And then we get to the top plane line, and he does a pretty good job at the top plane line, but we can see how far behind that centeredness is. It's okay, but you want this gap to be a little bit closer, because now your hands are connected to the center of your swing or your setup, and then things just unfold naturally. So now we have a spine issue, right? Because we take a look at the spine tilt. The spine tilt has changed. So let's get it on a new number. Excuse me, new color. Let's go yellow. So we see how much taller he is. Left shoulder has risen up, and that could allow him to turn more. So now we got a spine angle that's also doing this as well as this. So there's just a little bit of too much of this going on in the golf swing, and a lot of it is set up. So face on, what I want your son-in-law to do is get that ball position more to the left. Don't go outside that left heel, because now you're going to start playing with the path issue. So more towards the left side. Get that right to tilt down to connect your hands. I like the way it's still centered. From this view, pull those feet back. We're not going to change the angle much. We're just going to pull the feet back. So in other words, if we clear these lines, and if we go to here and redraw that setup. So there's one, there's two, arch of the heel straight up, and then we look at where the spine angle is. So we can see this is where the arch of the heels need to be to allow the room for him, so he doesn't have to create some room. He doesn't have to stand up at impact to create the room. So don't change the upper body. We're not changing from here up. Leave that alone. It's from here down. Scoot the feet back, straighten them out a little bit. And then if you need to start adjusting the tilting with the spine, go ahead. But you can tell that we don't change things in the swing. Specifically when I'm working with students, I don't necessarily go to the swing changes right away. I'm looking at why are the swing changes, why is the swing like that? And it's most likely because something in the setup is causing the swing to occur this way. And we have to look at, okay, what is the cause for that? Let's cure the cause. And then we start to work on the swing itself, and we move it in different directions based on the new setup. So just a quick tip for everybody at home, everybody watching this very early live stream. I apologize again. Check yourself.